Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through passion and purpose. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is a special show today. We're going to start doing this in 2021. We've got a lot of other great guests lined up. We're going to have a career coaching question and answer session. So if you guys are out there and you have any questions related to your career journey, no matter what age you are, where you are at in life, me and Rosaria just want to be able to help you answer those questions, provide you with some detail, help you find a career that you love and that you enjoy doing, and help you with any career development topic that you want. So you can enter those comments into the comment sections. Question and answers we'll be taking for the next half hour. Please feel free to put those in the comments, as well as YouTube. Enter those into the comment box. We did have some questions come in before the show. Rosaria, thank you so much for joining the show to help us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So could you give us a brief background about your biography and what kind of you do career wise?
Sure. About 10 years ago, I started in the career counseling profession, typically in higher education. I've worked in private practice where I credential career counselors now too in private practice. And also, I am now the president of the New Jersey Career Development Association, where I bring training and professional development opportunities to career practitioners in the state of New Jersey.
Awesome. So I think you're going to be great help. We appreciate you giving back your time, and I'm going to jump right into these questions as they come in. It says, I'm a student and I've read several articles that if you're indecisive or not sure where you want to go as far as careers, a business degree would be a good degree to obtain. Is this so for an MBA as well?
Well, it just, I always start with the end in mind. So my first question is, why are you decisive? Right? Undecided, sorry. So I want to talk about your what I call career DNA, right? What are your natural tendencies? What are your interests, your work interests? What is your Holland code, we call it in the career world? I want to know that. And does that align, right, with your overall career goals, right? So that's what I want to know. It's the curiosity in me is asking. So once we figure out that and you have a kind of a big picture, then we fill in the gap with the major. That comes after really getting to know yourself. So my question to you is, have you spoken to someone and have taken, for example, the SDS, the self-directed search, just to get an understanding of yourself and then talk about your career values? So that's very important to know about yourself regardless of the major.
I would agree with you. It's what's your goal for your career? Just to get an MBA to have a degree on the wall. I mean, we've got to have some type of end in mind or a goal or platform. I don't think it's just simply getting another educational credential and then, not applying it to anything. And then you got to look at the ROI and the investment in this school. School is very expensive. So what are you going to be paying for it? What's your ROI? What are you going to get out of it? Now, if you have a end in mind, let's say, you're in marketing right now and you want to get into that senior director level spot, and then MBA might be a great choice for you because you kind of know where you want to go. Do you kind of agree with that as well?
Yes, I do. It really does start with the end in mind, and then find a major that helps you develop those skills. Is it leadership skills that you want to build that muscle? Is it data, right? Whatever the skills are, that's what the major is for, right?
Right.
So I definitely on point, Zach. Great question.
It says, the next question is, I have so much random experience in different jobs. I have a degree. How can I find a career and enjoy it with not having a lot of it sounds like relevant experience, but again, I think we should know what they would want to get into, but we're kind of left with a question out there. So let me reframe the question for you and the audience is, how do you find, let's say you're working in another industry and you want to transition. How do you go about that?
Mm-hmm. I will always go back to my degrees in counseling, career counseling. So I will always go back to knowing yourself, right? There is really great theories out there that have shown to be proven true in helping with the transition process, right? So understanding your values, what didn't you like about your last job that you're looking for in your new job? So usually that is a values talk, right? That's a conversation about, well, I didn't have enough autonomy, or I wasn't able to be creative enough, right? Or I'm looking for stability and my last job didn't provide me that. We need to have that discussion prior to your transition, right? Once you do transition or you understand the why of the transition, then we're going to start to talk about your transferable skills. If you're dealing with money, if you're dealing with people, right? If you're dealing with inventory, there's always a transferable skill that we're going to really look at and say, is this something you want to apply into the next job or the next career? And then we start to talk about it like that. Once you start to dissect the transition, I think it becomes really helpful and you really get to know yourself better and you really enter the room in an interview with feeling more empowered because you know what you want and you know what you don't want. So that will translate to effective interview questions, right? To your employer and say, listen, is there opportunity to grow here? Is there an opportunity where I can use my creative mindset and apply it? This is something that's very important to me. So it'll shape the interview as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And the follow-up question is, how can I centralize all my past experience to focus in on a new career with my resume?
I always say have a master resume and cut and paste as needed. I mean, there are some outdated, maybe 20-year-old experience that I really have to, it's hard to justify why it's on a resume. Let's keep the past 10 years on your resume and let's keep it on a master resume, right? And then we cut and paste as needed.
Gotcha. Next question comes in. What jobs are out there that are fitting to my office experience and great communication skills that don't require a specific degree?
Well, it depends because some degrees, it depends on the amount of experience, right? Because we've seen this in just the world of work. People get grandfathered in to certain careers, especially in I don't want to say especially in communications, but I remember the day where someone used to rip apart a computer and now we call it a networking career, right? So I remember the day where musicians just were rock stars and didn't have a background. So it just depends, on the specific career. So if you're using office manager position and because you have so much experience, I'm less concerned about the degree and I'm more concerned about the credentials, like the micro types of skill sets like Office or Outlook or Access, depending upon if that's the office manager is the role you want to get into. Because there's some credentials that you can obtain that will set you apart coupled with the experience that'll set you apart with someone with just a degree. So then when it comes with the communication side of the house, there are departments that are communications departments, focused departments that do a lot of social media and marketing, and as we know, and those are also heavy on the skill set. Do you know search engine optimization? Do you know certain communication styles? Do you have experience in that? And if you do have experience in that, will that overshadow a 4-year degree? Right? Are you up to speed with the Adobe products? That's just an example of some things I see in job descriptions in that realm. So it just depends on how much experience, what the skill sets you have, and what the job description is asking for.
Thank you for that. And then the next question comes from a college student who says they're a sophomore. They don't really know what they want to major in yet. Would you still recommend an internship without them knowing their specific major?
If your college allows it, why not? Right? more hands-on experience. It's a corny analogy, but it's true. You're dating professions right now, right? While you're in college, you're dating the professions, whether it's with the major or whether it's with hands-on experience. Go ahead and go on out there and date those professions, because that's how you're going to play process of elimination. It's life is trial and error. So yeah, sure. If you're not, paying for a course that's not going to lead you anywhere, but I still think it's worth it. It's a 3 credit course and you have the opportunity to do an internship with a company that you're curious about, I don't see any harm in that.
I agree with you. The most people I've talked to don't say they regret internships. In
Yeah.
fact, most successful people said, "Hey, it was a mentor. Hey, it was this certain class. It was this professor, or it was that internship I did." And then I don't necessarily mean what you learn in it, which is helpful, but it's the people you know from that internship, and you get to meet a lot of professionals around there. And even if it's not in a particular career you want to do, want to make sure you show up on time. You show up, leave a good impression, you work hard, you bust your tail for them, you put in the effort for them, and you'd be surprised at how off of that one experience, whether it be 3 months, 4 months, whatever it might be, a semester, that can make you really stand out among professionals, and that can help your network grow, especially on LinkedIn. So I would make sure to, don't do an internship to half rear it. If as the country saying would say, only it's another word, of course, but you don't want to go into it if you're going to half do it. You want to show up and put your full 100% effort into that internship. But I agree with you. I don't see any reason why it would hurt to even do it every year if you wanted to. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little unsure of my major. The next question comes in. I'm a freshman, not surely. I'm undecided right now. What steps can you recommend to students to find something they want to major in that's relevant to a career?
We keep going back to major, and the beautiful thing about the career counseling profession is we have really good tools to get to know yourself. I'm going to say that because we have really reliable and valid assessments that have dated back to the early 1900s to tell you what I call career DNA is, right? I have a tool that I can tell you whether what your work interests are. I really encourage everyone to go see a career counselor and learn that about yourself. You should be curious about yourself. You should be. You should be curious about what you're good at. You should be curious about what your values are. You should be curious about what your natural tendencies are and what kind of work environments you align with. So please go see your career counselor. I assume most institutions, if not all, have a career center, at least one person that can help you with a career assessment. I'm sure there's a lot of career counselors I know in the state of New Jersey that help students all the time. So please be curious about yourself. And then once you narrow down that list. The next step is narrowing down that list of occupations and then seeing which majors align with your interests.
100% agree. Always encourage every student, whether you're a freshman or a senior, preferably early on, to get plugged into those career service centers. Those are trained professional career coaches. Career coaches, on the average, guys, cost between $150 to $200 per hour. These people have these credentials that are right on those college campuses. And guess where employers go to look to hire students? The first building they go to, a career service center. You get plugged in, you learn a lot about yourself. What do you mean by a career DNA? Can you talk through us what you're talking about there?
Well, I made that term up just because it resonates, right, with students. There's a few assessments that you can use these days. The list keeps growing, but about 10 years ago when I went for my master's in mental health counseling, it was actually counselor education, and it had a focus in career development. So I learned a lot of the career theories. One of them that stuck with me was Holland Theory. It's a career assessment. It's called the self-directed search. You can do it online if you all want, or you can go to, obviously, to your career center and see if they have that. It's the most popular assessment. It just gives you a 3-letter code to see what your work interests are. It's very popular, and then you can plug that into something called the ONET, ONET, and you can align your work interests, it's a 3-letter code, to occupations and really start the search there. I do that a lot a day, let's put it that way. But that assessment, not only is the career DNA, the code, important, but it tells a lot to the career counselors how you learn, what courses to not take and what to take in the same semester, right? It gives us a lot of insight about your brain, right? And then there's obviously the career values and the skills and abilities. We could all want to be a rock star, but can you sing, right? So we need to all know that as well. So that career assessment, self-directed search, it's been around forever. And there's a lot of companies that have adopted the theory and used it in their assessment. That's a great starting point to get to know yourself and have someone interpret it. Don't just take the assessment and walk away. Ask someone, pull up my graph. What does it look like? What is the percentages, right? Really important information there.
I agree with you. You know, I have a chapter in my book, Don't Be a Zombie, How to Find a Career You Love. It's dedicated to a whole chapter of personality profiles, career aptitude tests, because I think that's the number one way you really learn yourself, your personality, what personalities you would like to work for, whether you have an analytical brain, et cetera, et cetera. So the more you learn about yourself, the more you're going to know. And, you know, for me, things quickly removed from my list. You know, if I'm not very scientific and I don't like math, that's me. You know, that eliminates a lot of positions that I could potentially have. So why not go ahead and, like you said, learn all you can about yourself, take advantage of these personality profile tests. There's many, like you said. I mean, I have a whole chapter of so many different ones. I mean, Myers-Briggs is a popular one about personality, learning about your personality, what different groups and environments you like to work in is another big thing. You know, do you like to work in the office? Do you want to work in the car? Do you want to travel? All these different things can really help you narrow it down to a career. So thank you so much for that advice. We do appreciate it. Now, another question that I have, and I know you're in higher education, but I want to go ahead and ask this since it's in the box. A student says they want to start their own business. They're in high school, senior in high school. They're deciding whether they should go to college or not. What advice would you give them? Do they need to go to college to start that business? What would you tell that student?
It all depends, right? You don't need college. It's, do you want college as a stepping stone? You know, I always say my father was an immigrant from Italy, and he wanted to be a musician, and he came here and he did it. Nothing was going to stop that man, right? He didn't know contracts. He learned contracts, right? So who do you want to learn business from? Do you want to learn by trial and error? Do you want to learn in a school setting? What is your learning style, right? So it really just depends. So if there's a big trend in the entrepreneurial route right now, I've noticed with students, and I am a full supporter in you following you, right? I've worked with every population from inmates to AARP transitioning from in order to retire. What's their second life look like? So I'm a supporter of you, but there is a learning curve when it starts with learning your business. Are you in a city where they offer a lot of small business coaching? Great. Who do you want to learn from? What is your learning style? There is a learning curve. It's inevitable, right? So my question is, who do you want to learn from? But there is an opportunity to learn in higher education. There's also an opportunity to learn in some great cities that offer small business coaching. And also, obviously, the internet has all the information that you will need. It just depends on your learning style.
Absolutely. Yep. And I agree with you on that. You don't have to go to college, but what I would say and challenge that person too is if you really don't know, why not go ahead and get your degree, start your business on
Mhm.
the side. Most small businesses in North America start out at less than $5,000 startup costs. So, I wouldn't encourage anybody to go $500,000 in debt chasing a business goal. I would just start out small, the garage, the yard, somewhere small to start this business, your home office, your room, your computer, and start it that way and build it as a side hustle. Because if it fails, then you've always got their education to back that up. And I don't regret ever going to get my degree at any time in my life. It made me a more learning more things that I didn't want to do, obviously, in the math and science, like I already mentioned, but also the connections I made through a degree. And so I would kind of point them there. But I agree with you. If you're already, I met a student the other day who was 17 years old in high school and was already making much more than the average person in North America, and they've got their business going. Well, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to have to quit that business and
Mhm.
go to school. So I agree with you. Um, Let me get to this question. So, um, job search engines. Let's say, you're entry level or you're somewhere looking for jobs, and people want to know what the number one search app is for jobs. What do you recommend as far as finding jobs?
Obviously, LinkedIn. I mean, I couldn't be more prouder of the direction they're going. They're pretty phenomenal in how they have. I think I would, I don't know if I'm correct on this one, but I would think that, a lot of recruiters are looking there as well. So that's an obvious assumption. I don't want to make that, I don't want to say that as a fact, but LinkedIn is I look nowhere else, just LinkedIn, right? There's so many features on there to see if you have connections and links at that particular job. You really are on the job search, you have 1 free month of the premium. If you really want that, that'll give you an additional insight on how many applicants have applied already, what skill sets, what types of skills are applying. If you know anyone that works there, right? If you know any alumni of your institution that work there, or you have any connections that work there, I mean, there's no greater tool. And then the job search agents are great on there.
I agree. I think it's become
Mm.
the number one thing out of everything. And, apps have changed, but that's certainly number one. But, also, too, you mentioned, I like your tip about, the premium version is available for a free 30 days. So,
Mhm.
if you're a college student or you really can't afford it, they do give you that first
Mhm.
29-day trial. And so take advantage of that. I know plenty of students who have done that. They've even told me about it at first, is, hey, you can get the first 29 days free. And I've taken advantage of that and spent a lot of time building up my profile and learning from videos off of there. And like you said, you can able to search the analytics of jobs a little bit more during that time. And so it might be a great time to do that. What would you recommend to make your LinkedIn stand out? Any tips or tricks there?
Definitely a good heading, and a professional photo. That's in my opinion, a deal breaker. Professional photo, you don't have a professional photo or a photo, they need to know what they're purchasing, right? It's a company looking you up. Take it seriously. Take your summary seriously. Don't tell us everything that you've done in the past. Future tense, right? What you want to do, right? That's really important. LinkedIn has great LinkedIn tutorials. Their education department is phenomenal as to when they make the videos. I love them. So if you are just curious, just YouTube that and you'll find a ton of resources created by LinkedIn. So have a great summary telling the reader what you'd like to be doing, and make sure your profile is complete. Tell us everything. Ask for recommendations. This is the time, right? Ask for recommendations. Ask your faculty for recommendations so employers can see it. Fill out that, upload that project you're particularly proud of, right? Do not leave anything blank, in my opinion.
Agreed. You know, so many people, again, we talked about that in the internships, they half rear it. And, you know, where, oh, we'll just get on and make a little profile here. It's much more than that. It's neat. I would make sure to fill out in its entirety your summary, your descriptions, link to the jobs that you've had, your experience, like you said, what you want to do, what your goals are, what your more buzzwords you can create in your profile. Guess what? That pops up more jobs. So make sure you keep that in mind as you search for jobs. And another thing that you mentioned too is let's fill it out completely. Your nonprofits. What have you done in your, like, don't start skipping a bunch of stuff, you know, just because, oh, well, I can't remember the years for that job, so I'll skip that. No, it's time to take that time, look that information up, find out what it is, and make sure you make it as presentable as possible. So,
Absolutely.
thank you, Rosaria. I really appreciate this. I know you're really busy. You got a lot going on, and we just appreciate you giving back. I had a lot of good questions today. That wraps up the Q&A session. Guys, if you're out there, we really do appreciate the questions. We had some really good ones today. And Rosaria, thank you so much for your time and giving back today.
No, absolutely. Any questions? I appreciate you having me on and giving me a platform to help people. So thank you.
Yep.